You were live. Look, you were
Yeah, the
live.
stream is live. It's living.
Well, so it occurred to me the last time we did the show, which first of all, apologize to our loyal audience of three uh, for missing last week and the delay. Hamadi Hump Day happening on the first day of the week was bizarre, but
Uh,
I felt like the last time that we did this, we robbed the audience of a good 15 or 20 minutes worth of really good content when we were trying to decide what we were going to talk about ahead of the show.
oh, interesting.
Yeah, because it's like, what are we going to talk about? Well, I don't know. We could talk about this. We could talk about that. And I think that's actually would have been more interesting than the actual content we produced.
We'll give them a peek behind the scenes here,
Yeah, exactly. So this is so we've not discussed anything. In fact, all we've discussed is when are we actually going to make this happen?
which was hard
And
enough by itself.
but it so happens that it's on Father's Day, and you know,
Happy Father's Day, by the
happy
way.
Father's Day to you, brother. And I feel like we were both very fortunate to have the role model we had. Like our dad, I think did a great job. Wasn't perfect. Could have done a lot of things better. I'm sure he'd admit, but
Oh, yeah.
at the end of the day, like the results I think speak for themselves. Three functional
Yeah.
grown adults.
Three kids that are not in jail.
Not in
Uh,
jail. No
not
laptops being left at
no,
repair shops and
we're not addicted to drugs.
no, that's right. No addiction, no
No, yeah,
addiction
so,
issues.
like, we're not saying we're not addicted. Like, we gotta emphasize the correct thing. No,
As I
uh,
consume two drugs right now,
yeah. Oh,
caffeine. Yeah.
last legal stimulant. Um, no, there's a story that I've told about him before, but it's always whenever someone asks, like, "Well, what was your dad like growing up?" So, um, for those of you who don't know him, he's a very fun person, very competitive. Like, he takes his games very seriously. And I remember when we were kids, he was an entrepreneur. He's working out of the house as a one man operation. So what do they call those? Not self employed, but like a solo. I don't know. There's a business.
Solopreneur. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
solopreneur. Yeah. Um, and so he would work long hours. He'd be with clients all the time, be on the phone all the time, and he would come home usually right before dinner. And I remember he would take his jacket off and his tie off, and he'd go into the garage and we'd play ping pong for like 20 minutes and trash talk each other the whole time. We'd be like, he'd be like,
That's
"You
right.
got nothing, you got nothing, kid."
Yeah.
He's putting these weird spin, on how much English can I put on this ball?
Yeah.
And we would just laugh and laugh, and we'd do that for maybe like 20 minutes, and then he'd go take his shoes off, stuff, and we'd sit down for dinner. And he always made a point of doing this. And that sometimes there were some days where that's really the only time I would see him. Like, he would get up very early in the morning before me, um, you know, uh, stretch a little bit, read the Bible, go to work, and then I just wouldn't see him. And so having, like, when people talk about, like, don't count up the amount of time you spend with your, like, counting is like, it's not a numerical thing. It
Mm.
was that I knew that he was making a point every day that, like, we're going to do something together, even if
Mhm.
it's 20 minutes of ping pong. We're going to do something together. And I always, at the time, I appreciated it. I enjoyed it. And now, looking back on it as a dad myself, now my kids are older than I was when that was happening.
Mhm.
That, like, now I really appreciate it. Like, it was meaningful at the time, which I love that I noticed at the time. Like, hey, this is a cool thing.
Right.
But now it's like, wow, that's such a big thing. So I've always been. I told him that story, so it's not like, you should tell him. It's like, no, no, like,
Right.
he knows that was like some really cherished memories of my childhood.
Yeah, so Dad, if you're listening, man, that worked. Appreciate it. Yeah, he was. You talk about like getting up in the morning. I mean, that's one of the biggest things I remember is. I mean, he was up reliably, like every time before I got up. I mean, he was up, and I remember getting up super early. I think it was like 5:30 or something, and he
Go
was
on,
he
baby
was already
birth.
up. He
Yeah.
was he was in the and he would get me to. He would be like, "Well, here, come and do these exercises with me and stuff." And he would do planks and push ups and sit ups and he was always doing that. And then he would take that his Bible and he would go sit and read it. And I remember
Yeah, brew himself some
asking,
tea and then sit and
yeah, I
read.
remember asking him at the time. I was like, what are you learning from this?" And
Like,
he was
haven't you
like,
already
"Oh,
read this before?
because he did. I mean, like he read through the Bible like multiple times, growing up." And I'm like, "What do you?" Because I had. Have you ever read the Bible all the way through?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I did. I did when I was in. I think it was in high school or junior high. They gave me the through the Bible in a year or whatever,
Oh, yeah, the 1 year, yeah.
and that did
There's
not
some
work for me.
surprising stuff in that book.
Well, that did not work for me, the 1 year, but because like the 1 year, but they would give you like some of the Old Testament and some of the New Testament, and then like a psalm and a proverb like every day, and they'd mix that together, and you would go through the whole thing.
So you have no idea
And
what's going on.
yeah, to me that it was like, okay, if I check all these boxes. But I remember getting like, one time I got like, I don't know, like 2 weeks behind, and
Ooh.
I was grounded. So like I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll catch up on this, the Bible reading or whatever. And it was just, and I got annoyed, like switch, like if you're not doing it on the daily, it's not just that daily dose of like inspiration. It's this like, okay. So what worked for me was chronologically, like reading it. Somebody had like said, well, if you kind of break it up and do it like this chronologically, like that would help.
Mhm.
And so that helped me get through it. But I got to tell you, like some of that Old Testament stuff to this day. I mean, I was in seminary, and I was asking one of my professors, okay, why is this even in the Bible? I mean, like this is the most boring, non-interesting stuff. Like when you go through like Numbers and Deuteronomy and some of these,
Oh,
like I'm just like Leviticus. It looks like, oh my God, like what? Why? Why is this in here? This is painful to read. Like, and then you think this is painful to read. Like these people had to practice these rules. Uh, I mean,
well,
hats off to the Israelites, man. I mean, that was
well, one of the things that has always, struck me about that, because I mean, everybody that reads it, I mean, unless you're coming at it with an extremely poetical mindset, you're going through and it's like, well, there was, 50,000 of these people, they settled in this area, and then 25,000 of those people have settled in that area, and we're like, I don't even know where that is. Why does it matter?
so what?
So what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing that has always stuck out to me, one of the stories that's told in, I think it's in the first or second King. So part of the historical chronicle. For those of you who in the audience don't read the Bible, there's a couple long sort of mini books in there that are just history. And for a long time, these 5 books, the first 5 books of Moses, the ones with a lot of this boring stuff in it, are just lost. Like nobody knows where they are. They're sort of a distant memory. People are sort of aware that they exist, and they're trying to uphold some of the traditions, but they don't really understand them. And at one point, they're rebuilding part of the temple, and when they do, they uncover these books. They'd been sealed into the wall, to keep them safe. So they dig them out, and here they are. And so the king at the time has like a professional orator stand up in front of large crowd and just read them. And they said that when he was reading them, people wept.
I
Uh,
thought you were going to say they fell asleep.
no, no, that's the thing. It's like the effect on like that they had been following some of these things or pieces
Mm,
of them, and now hearing the original of it, it's like they could hardly contain their emotions from
mm,
like now being face to face with like the original,
right.
but all their traditions had just been copies. And I always think to myself like, yeah, you know, in the right context, this stuff might have
Context,
been,
everything, right? Yeah.
yeah, this stuff might have been so arresting, so powerful. The stuff that we think is boring.
Well, I think to me, that's it's a great point, man. To me, the biggest challenge that I had with different parts of uh, the Bible is that the context that I received growing up was, this is the Word of God. This is inspired. This is put together for for you to know how to live your life and meaning and whatever else. And so you're reading this stuff that has like seemingly like no connection to you whatsoever, and you're like trying, you're making every effort to extract. Like I know there's something in here for me, you know, and
Yeah.
it's like I don't know if there was anything in that one for you, but
Like the stuff about no shellfish, like, "But I love shrimp. Are we
but I
sure?"
love shrimp. You're right, right. And I mean, other than I'm grateful that disobedient children aren't stoned to death anymore. I wouldn't be here having this podcast with you. You
I don't think we were disobedient. I don't think either of us were disobedient at the level that they're talking about in there, but yeah.
yeah, maybe
Yeah,
not.
some of
Maybe
it is just really
not.
it's really hard to tell, like, what exactly are we supposed to get out of this now,
hmm
you know?
But going back to like talking about dad. I mean, like one
Oh,
of the
yeah, yeah.
things that I always appreciated. I mean, even when I've disagreed with them or disagreed with the course of action or a philosophy or the way of thinking or whatever that he has. Like one thing I've never doubted is where his heart's at and his sincerity and
Mhm.
that he really truly believes what he's saying. Which I think that's one of the things that you. I was going to say too, like in terms of role models. Like for me, I was very fortunate to have you uh,
Oh,
go
no.
through parenthood before I did because you've commented many times that like I was able to be an impact on you as an older brother, but you were able to be an impact on me as an older father because it was like I mean I remember being terrified to have children, like excited, but also like just I mean I was an older dad, so I was 42 when my daughter was born,
Yeah.
and um, and just that whole idea of am I qualified to? I mean,
The
I've
answer is no.
yeah,
None of us are.
and
Yeah.
I've lived a fairly raucous life, so like it wasn't. I was like, how am I supposed to be a? I mean, I had this great role model, of a serious person who was a serious parent and like treated his life very serious. I mean, our dad's always been very serious about like even when he's in good humor, it's very, very much intentional and like I mean, he's just lived in that mode of like, how can I achieve, and whatever it is, and and I mean, I had glimpses of that, but like a lot of times it's just more about it's just the experience, man, and let's just see what happens, and it'll be
Yeah.
great, and I'm like, am I going to even be a good parent? And one of the best piece of advice that I ever got was from you. I remember telling you, I'm like, I really struggle with like, I don't, I know I'll be fine before they can think, like the 1 year old, 2 year old.
I can
Like
change diapers.
I mean, I can't, but I can learn how to change a diaper and I can,
Yeah.
I can wipe a bum and learn how to give somebody a bath and here's the food, right? Like I can do that.
Sure.
Like I got that, but yeah, when they start asking me like, what do I think about this? Or what do I think about that? And like, I don't even myself know what I think about half the things I what one of the one of my I was hanging out with Larry and David, a couple of my buddies, and one night we were talking about something, and David was like, "What do you think about this? What do you think about that?" I'm like, "Bro, I don't think about things I don't think about. I don't know what
I
you're talking about." And, and Larry has used that for years. Like, oh, you don't think about things you don't think about. Yes, that's right. I
Yeah.
don't think about
Yeah.
things. I mean, sometimes I don't think about the things I do think about. So, and you said, you said, Eric, just look, whatever it is, don't ever tell your kids something that you don't believe is true. Like, just if you don't know, you don't know. Just say, I don't know. That's a good question. Let's think about it. Let's
Yeah.
explore it. You know, is the answer really important to you? And let's investigate. We'll go on the journey together. Rather than here's the answer when you don't really know or believe that that's the answer. And I thought that was just I was like, okay, I know how to do that too. I can say I don't know with the best of them, so uh,
Yeah, I mean, especially if it's like the worst one is, "This is the answer I think everybody would want me to tell you."
mhm,
And it's like, like that kids can see through that stuff. Like, don't fall into that trap,
mhm.
you know?
That was great advice. That gave me um, so much confidence that okay, I can. I mean, I don't know necessarily what all the answers are going to be, but I know that. I mean, I am curious. So like, we can investigate this together. So that was good.
It's a fun journey. I've really enjoyed being a father. I don't I like you, it's like I'm sure I'm doing a lot of this wrong. And as I go through the journey more, it's like I can look back and be like, yeah, that was they're gonna need therapy from that moment, like, oh, sorry. I didn't know it was such a bad idea at the time, but now I do, and I'm sorry.
I think about it's so funny you said therapy. I think about that a lot, like the different things that and I think this is maybe one of the temptations to maybe avoid as a parent is the idea that what you've had to wrestle with and unravel or whatever is somehow something that they're just going to need to, I mean, we all have to do this. This is the shared journey of mankind. It's like, no, I mean, like I'm on my own trip here, and there are things that I've gone through that were, let's say, damaging to me that I've had to process.
Mhm.
And some things I've unraveled, some things I'm still knotted up about, whatever the case may be. But it's like, okay, well, I want to make sure that my kids don't have to like unravel this the way that I had to unravel this. And so I'm going to make sure that I don't like put this on them in some way or whatever. And then in the process of doing that, you forget to actually like establish some boundaries or actually like, I mean, hey, dude, like, I mean, you're whatever it is, they're going to have to unravel something. And at some point,
Yeah.
if they don't think you're a jerk or a terrible parent or, I hate you or whatever, I mean, if you're not hearing that, then it's almost like, well, I mean, um, uh, maybe not that you're doing something wrong, but that's like that is what it's just, it's a question of like which specific things they are like that's
Mhm.
different for everybody. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to Claire, maybe about a year ago or whatever, and it's funny, I've always thought I was, like, a very transparent with the kids as far as, like, things that I think or, stuff that I just, don't have a conclusion about and that. And she said something like, I can't remember what it was, but it was like a mild criticism that she felt like she didn't know what I thought about all sorts of stuff. And I realized that in at least in her mind, I don't know if Annalise feels that was this way, but in her mind, I was like the enigmatic father. Like the dad that like for sure I know that he loves me and like is very affectionate and it is like a good dad, but like I have no idea what he thinks about all sorts of stuff. He's like this
Mm.
mysterious presence. It's like,
Did that
huh.
surprise you?
Yeah. Yeah, it really
Yeah.
did. And I'm sure like there's all sorts of things like that. Um, maybe when Annalise is older and is a little more confident, she'll be able to say stuff like, "Oh yeah, this is like I always wondered why you were like this." I'm like, "Why am I like? I'm not like that at all. What are you talking?" They're like, but 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 to her that's how I walk around, in her mind, and so I guess it's like a being a part of a family is always an exercise in humility, and I think trying to like be the head of the family, right, or like a parent, not the head in like some kind of patriarchal sense, but like um,
Well,
leading the
you're
leading
leading
the
the way.
family,
Yeah.
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 Maybe is like even more an exercise in humility for those
Hmm.
reasons. But anyway,
Was there something specifically that like did you follow up in that conversation? Like you don't have to share the specifics, but like was there a specific thing where you're like,
oh,
was there anything specifically you wanted to know that you don't know that I could tell you,
I
or like
I don't even remember what it was. I don't remember. I just remember like that. I was like, what?
thus
What do you
feeding into
mean?
the enigmatic stereotype you've
Yeah, I'm like,
created?
what are you
Oh,
talking
well,
about?
that's unfortunate you feel that way. I gotta
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Like I have no response. Like,
Huh.
I mean, that's like, well, that's your experience. It's not like you're wrong, I just don't don't say.
That's so funny. Yeah,
Uh
my personality would be like, "What do you mean?"
yeah.
Like, tell me
Mm.
what do you yeah.
It's like, and yet another like throw a smoke bomb and it
Right,
vanish.
right, right, and vanish. Yeah. He was never even
He
here.
was never there.
Oh,
Oh
man,
man.
yeah.
That's
I
funny.
remember telling, like, I feel like our dad, yours and mine, like, one of the things I told him, years ago was that, um, you know, I felt like he did a great job of being a role model. Like, there's things that I look back and I'm like, but I should this right here. I'd love to extract that and use that in my own life. That was a really good
Mhm.
example. For example, right? Um, whether the getting up in the morning, the morning routine, the commitment to principle, things like that, right? Um,
Sure.
on, on the other hand, I told him something very similar to like it wasn't that I didn't know what he thought about things. Like I knew we knew very well what he thought about things, but I didn't feel like I knew him, like as a
Oh,
man, as a person, as a human, until I didn't feel like I had that opportunity as a child, but because he was always this like figure, rather
mhm.
than a person, sharing their experiences and their struggles and whatnot. It was always like all the struggles that he'd had, and but now, he knew the way things should be, and so like here's the way it should be,
Here we
like because
go.
because
Yeah.
because back then this happened, and so I learned this, right? Rather than yeah, I'm actually I was dealing with this yesterday, da, 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 you know what I mean? Like
Oh,
really
so
making it
he showed up in your life almost as like this completed thing.
correct, yeah,
Like
and then
development was done. That was the
complete, yeah,
past.
yeah.
Oh,
And it
that's
wasn't
interesting.
until I was an adult, in fact, like in fact, I was divorced when we finally had that conversation,
Really?
yeah, so, like, I was in my 30s, and I was like, and we finally started talking about that, and yeah, yeah,
Oh,
and of course, as a grown man, like, post that conversation, it and not just with him, but like with everyone. It was kind of like this like mind-opening thing for myself. It's like, dude, well, like where everybody's obviously like struggling with like, self-doubt and this and that and the other, all those things. Like we all experience that. And yet, like he had felt it was his role to not display those things.
mm,
Um and 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 it was almost like when I was a teenager and then a young adult, right? It was almost like every time I would find something that was not consistent or not whatever, it was like, you're not who you pretend to be. You know what I mean?
got
Uh,
him. You
got you.
got. I got you.
When in reality, it's like, well, I mean, just especially now, like I'm 49 now. It's like, like, yeah, it's the whole thing is a complete exercise in improvisation. Like I mean,
Yep.
good luck. And what a delightful experience, right? So like if you can contextualize it that way, but it takes
Mhm.
a minute to get there if the people you're looking up to um are like you said, that's a great word, like a completed work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's really interesting that you mentioned this because I never experienced dad that way, and I
Mm,
think it's because I was very aware as like the second child, and then as the middle, is this the sort of dynamics between mom and dad and like my two brothers on either end. And so I was constantly watching dad adapt and change to stuff that he would try with you and that wouldn't work, you know? And then it was just like, and he'd turn around and try it with Brian and it's like, and everything would work fine. And he's kind of like, oh, okay, I've got to do different stuff.
with
And so,
different
like,
people, yeah.
constantly watching him kind of tack the boat. And so I always saw him as like extremely adaptable and like constantly sort of changing and working his way through different situations. So, but that's because I'm watching him with you
Hmm.
and you don't have like the older sibling to watch the parents react to them. You're
Right.
you're like out at the head of the ship,
Yeah,
the prow of the
to
ship.
right, to me, everything was happening to me, right? And it's
Right.
like, yeah, exactly.
Same person. It's like that was that famous movie Citizen Kane or
Hmm.
Orson Welles, where like as each person tells, like you have all these different versions of Kane, and it's all the same person, right? But like sometimes very discordant versions of them from each of these
Right.
people's perspective. Even the same event is plays out differently for the different
Differently.
people,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's I don't know. I guess it's always a bit of a. There's a reason why it's the number one movie, right?
One of the greatest films.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's speaking of Orson Welles, man, I was so I got into this show last night on Apple TV Plus called Dark Matter. Have you seen this?
No, haven't heard anything
Uh,
about it.
Okay, so
I'm looking up while you're talking. Go ahead.
okay, so we'll talk about this in a minute. But anyway, so there was 7 episodes of it that were available. The 8th one is coming out next week or whatever. And I'd seen it advertised, and I was kind of like, I'm going to hold off until the season's done, so I can just go. But yesterday, I was hanging out with some friends, and they were like, "Oh man, have you been watching the show?" They started talking about it. I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get into it." So I was up till 4 in the morning watching all 7 episodes, and that I could get my hands on. But after I was done with the show, I'm like, I was still like wide awake, like just like oh my god, my brain was like running a million different directions. It's 4 in the morning. I got to go to sleep, and sure enough, there was Orson Welles was on TCM or whatever, and so I fell asleep to Orson Welles. But I'm like, as I was watching like this other movie that he was in, uh, just watching him on camera, his like his ability to capture and also like just own a scene. You know,
Just
there's these
take it
other
over.
just, like I mean, this was a
This is
movie
my
with
scene.
this was a movie with like Tyrone Power and a couple. I mean, there was some great actors in this, and he just dominated, not by like oratory, but it was like his mannerisms and just his like way of listening. And it's almost like he's like 15 steps ahead of where everybody else is, and is so real and honest in the scene that like it makes everybody else look like they're acting, and he's like the only non-actor in the scene.
Yeah. It's Prince of Foxes is the movie you're thinking of.
Yep, that's it. Yep,
The
that's it.
historical one about
The Borgias,
yeah, Italy or something like that. Yeah.
yeah, Cesare, man. But it was but that's another fascinating. We could have a whole podcast about the Borgias, I'm sure. But like,
You
yeah,
know, I would like to talk. This is something I've been thinking about for a little bit, and since we're sort of unscripted today, I would like to talk about just entertainment in general. I was actually last week when we skipped. I'm kind of glad we skipped because that was the week that uh, our former president Donald Trump got his 34 felony convictions,
yeah, that's right.
34 counts. That
Congratulations, man. Some of them finally stuck.
finally made it. Yeah. Well, one of my youngest daughter, Annalise, was like, "Well, what exactly did he get convicted of?" And I explained, "It's like, well, here's this thing. He paid this person," and they're like, "Oh, wow, okay. So, what about the other?" Everyone was saying 34. What are the other 33? I was like, "No, no, no. It's all that. It's like if you buy something on your credit card and then you pay it off over 12 months, and it's like each one of those payments counted as a separate thing. So it's just one. It's like basically, yeah, like, okay, why is everyone saying 34? I'm like, well,
Well, those are 34 statutes that he was
yeah,
convicted of being a
it's
felony on. Yeah,
exciting. It's
yeah, we have
exciting.
too many laws is what the problem is. Yeah, you
It's
broke too,
exciting to say 34.
you did one thing and broke 34 laws. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, it's the same law 34 times. We were laughing like it's like if you got let's say you bought a new set of golf clubs and your wife was really mad at you. So you put it on, you put it on a payment plan, and like every month she gets mad at you again. And it's like, oh, you paid. Like, well, no, I mean that's just I mean, I paid for it's the golf clubs that I bought last time. It's like, well, again, you disrespect me. And it's like, what do you mean again? Like, that's
But
the 34 count.
if your wife takes your golf clubs
Uh-huh.
and your set of golf clubs, right? And
The new ones that you just bought, you're still paying on? Okay.
she threw them in the trash,
Yep.
right? Is she guilty of, you know, trashing a set of golf clubs or 18 clubs and a bag and a towel and the 6 golf
Oh,
balls that are in there? And, like, so like how many crimes did she commit when she threw away
so
that set
here's
of
the way
golf?
I would think about it is since we're married, they're actually our golf clubs.
Oh, right.
And she
Yeah.
is just
But I
consolidating.
put them on my credit card.
No, it's ours. Everything's
Oh, okay.
ours.
Because
Yeah.
what's
Including including her shoes, which will suddenly be chopped into small pieces. They were our shoes. And now
yeah, what's yours is mine, and what's mine is ours.
everything's
Yeah.
ours. No, but it's if we had it last week, it would have just become what is it? What is the outcome? What is the fallout from this? Is it unprecedented? Is it not unprecedented? And we'd have this thing about like who's the most corrupt, and it would have been a mess. So I'm kind of glad we didn't go down that road.
Okay,
Even
so
though
you're bringing it up to not go down the road.
well, it would have been entertaining. it would have been entertaining maybe to some people, but we would have looked back then, a week or 2 or 3 and be like, I don't
Yeah,
know why we got that was a little weird. We shouldn't have gone
yeah.
down that road."
I will say
But
it is remarkable that like, because like, in the intervening time since that happened, Hunter Biden also convicted of felony.
yeah, the gun crimes though, right? Or he filled out the form, incorrectly.
It's not a gun crime. It is
Right.
a, yeah, correct. He checked the box on the gun registration form that said that he was not a drug user,
Which we have photos
which
of him contemporaneously
doing
doing
drugs, right?
drugs.
And
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
so the irony, I thought it was so funny because of course, watching Fox News or Newsmax or OAN or whatever, it's all like, oh, this is outrageous, president's son felon, blah blah blah, this just shows how corrupt the Biden family is. And I was like, it is interesting that in the Biden Justice Department that has weaponized the Justice Department to go after his political enemies, and it's clearly like all in the palm of his hand that he would allow this prosecution to go forward against his son, and
Yes.
and not that he's some kind of great man for allowing that to happen. I mean, that actually is the normal process, is the president does not interfere with this, but also that both of these gentlemen, Trump and Hunter Biden, convicted of what we would probably call a process crime. It's like you check the
Yeah.
wrong box on the paper, and now you're a felon.
Now you're felon.
And
Yeah.
yeah, but
Well, I
depending on
think
which network you listen to, if you listen to MSNBC, Trump is the worst thing ever. If you listen to Fox, Biden's the worst thing ever. Like at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, but both of them just checked the wrong box on
check the
a
wrong
piece
box.
of paper.
You know,
Yeah.
I
So
I
I was listening to I can't remember what comedian it was, but he was like, so here in America, we don't really care if you pay off porn stars or if have illicit weapons or anything else like that. Just do not mess with the paperwork. Like
don't
that, we will
don't
not
check the wrong
tolerate
box.
that. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
don't be messing with the paperwork.
I I feel genuinely, and this is not. This might sound sarcastic. This is not sarcastic. This is genuine. I really feel bad for Hunter Biden.
Or do you?
Yeah. Well, and there's a few reasons why. So one is, the situation now. No one would have gone after him in this way unless there was this political cost that would accrue to Biden himself. Like the idea that all of these pictures would have been made public, that there would be pressure on the prosecutor, like, hey, this is unequal enforcement. If you're willing to let this slide, we have all this evidence, and you're going to go put someone else in jail for the same thing because they're not a member of a powerful political family. And a lot of people, so this is like an open question right now for checking that box, the drug user box, in states where marijuana is legal. And so everyone says, hey, federally, this is not legal. So if you're using even medical marijuana, even if it's prescribed by a doctor, you must check this box that you are a user. And a lot of people don't because they feel like it's, if it's legal where they live, they shouldn't have to check the box.
Hmm.
And they wind up not going to jail for it because no one checks. And so the fact that there's be all this attention on Hunter Biden, it's because of the politics of his family. So I think that that's really unfair, number one. And then number two, all the stuff that he had gotten away with before, including things like, I mean, the pictures are not just of him using drugs, but of like using drugs around minors, you know, all this other stuff.
We've proven we don't care about minors.
Well, but the fact that he would have been in a situation where he could do those things and get away with it, and it would escalate like this, is also because of his family. Like, this is the kind of thing where normally this would have been put a stop to much earlier on with maybe like a 90-day misdemeanor or something or whatever, and maybe he could get his life in order. But he never got the pressure to put his life in order because he was always protected by his family's politics.
Yeah.
And so it's like some of the normal consequences that maybe could have helped him out never happened. And
It's
now we
hard
have
to.
it's hard
Sorry.
to know what would have happened, but like I just look at the whole thing as kind of tragic. It's like this is a sad thing
Well, I was
that
going
we're
to
seeing the
say
end of.
it's hard to look at the child of a vice president, a president, a lifelong senator, I mean, certainly since he was, born or, a very young
A
child.
kid.
I mean, you could,
Yeah.
I mean, and say that he didn't have the opportunity to clean his life. I mean, like, dude,
Sure.
this is a child of privilege in every sense. Both
Sure.
of them, Trump and, I mean, they both
Yeah.
came, born into scions of wealth, and I mean, maybe not in the Biden's case, not a scion of wealth, but certainly a scion of power, and accumulated wealth and position over time. It's just not. I don't. It is very different. I mean, like I was listening. Who was I listening to the other day? We were talking about somebody totally different, but some.
Mm.
Oh, it was it Lindsay Lohan or Paris Hilton or something? It was one of the bimbo squad or whatever they were called back then.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But it's like it's all this pressure, and you grow up in a family that's had this exposure, and then your life's always in the public eye. You never asked for that, and so it's all this, and granted, uh, it's tough. Like I mean, I never had to deal with anything like that. I mean, our
Yeah.
dad was like, I mean, he was prominent, I guess, in certain circles, but I mean, like, so I always felt like there was this extra layer of, oh, your dad's you're the son of, you have to live up to a higher standard. I was always told that,
Mm.
and I don't feel like that was. Uh, and again, I'm not trying to layer on like my own experience and say, well, I could deal with it. You should have been able to too. Anything like that. I'm just saying there are people that grow up in abject
Sure,
poverty and
yeah.
all kinds of other. I mean, there's a range of human experiences that you could have as a child. I just don't have a lot of sympathy for you grew
No,
up in the lap of luxury excuse.
I guess if I guess well, yeah. I mean, there is the material benefit, right? But, I don't know, so many of them crack,
Hmm.
a lot of them.
Well,
And
in fact, it's like a thing, right? Like the sons of or daughters of great, but specifically sons, right? Like sons of great men throughout history. And I guess the reason I point out sons is because like you know thousands of years of human history, and typically like men have ruled the world, up until
yeah,
recently.
if the daughter can't handle it, it's like, well, we just marry her off to
We'll
some
marry
dude
her
somewhere,
off
and
and
you never hear from
give some
him
guy
again.
100 cows to take her off our hands, right?
Yeah.
But like these great kings, or like I mean, look at I mean,
Oh,
through
just every
history, right?
civilization has these stories. It's like a complete disaster when
Yeah,
they
the
take
kids take
over.
over. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like,
So
how's that possible? You grew up in the shadow of this great man, like you had all this, but
there's
obviously,
something
let's
about
blame the
that.
parents for sure. But
Yeah.
like,
Well,
yeah,
there's
bad parenting.
something about that experience, I think, must be profoundly, either just challenging or maybe damaging just by
Hmm.
itself. And, um, yeah, I mean, the material benefits must not really be able to outweigh that. And
Hmm.
otherwise, we wouldn't see it happen so often,
Right,
you know, or it's like rare to see like the child star or the child someone turn out totally fine. And you're like, wow,
right,
that's weird.
right,
Like they're so normal, weren't they
right,
in, Disney Channel is a 10-year-old. Like, shouldn't they be like completely wacko now? And it's like, no,
right.
they made it. They
They made
survived,
it.
you know?
Yeah, that's interesting. In fact, yeah, I'll put it to the audience. If you could think of the son or child of someone famous who also turned out to be anything but a complete wreck, I'd love to see a, I'd love to see a list of
it's
that.
it's rare. It's
Yeah,
rare.
Michael
Yeah.
Douglas, maybe.
Substance abuse issues,
Right, right.
right? His wealth insulated him, but like he had all sorts of problems. Uh, you know,
I'm just
I
thinking
don't know.
Michael Douglas came to mind because I just finished that show, Franklin, on Apple TV. I don't know if
Oh,
you've
I
seen
still need to
that.
see it. I still need to
That
see that.
is excellent,
There's so
excellent.
much good TV out there, man. It's hard. That was actually okay. So this is what I really want. Sorry for the politics
Yeah.
tangent. Um, One of the things that's been going around social media, and I have not seen the show, so I don't. It's not about that show, but apparently, the audience reaction to the newest Star Wars show, The Acolyte, has been
Oh, I haven't seen it.
universally negative reaction.
Oh,
Like
okay. So
reaction
maybe I'll just go
so
watch the YouTube recap.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen it. It's not really my thing. That's not the kind of science fiction I like, but apparently it's just everybody is taking a bite out of just how terrible the show is, how bad the writing is, how bad everything is. And there's this we've also been seeing at the box office, like some really big flops. So this year, Mad Max Furiosa came out, flopped at the box office. I think the newest Pixar film flopped at the box office. Like there's been just a long string of terrible releases that just kind of audiences have rejected. So one of the questions that I had, this has been kind of mulling, kind of percolating through my head, is how goes it with entertainment in now halfway through 2024? Like, how's entertainment going? Like, I think Hollywood seems to be in some kind of weird meltdown. There's some bright spots, but like for foreign films, I think I just finished. So Godzilla minus one. I know it's 2023. I've said amazing things about that. I just recently watched Shin Ultraman, which is
Okay, I haven't seen
which uh
that.
that's a couple years. I think it's came out in 2022 or 20, maybe it's last year, 23. Crazy. They just went full crazy.
I'm
And it's a
I'm
Japanese
making a
film.
list of homework here.
Oh,
Homework from Russ.
it
What is it
it is
called? Shin what?
Ultraman. And so,
Ultraman. Okay.
yeah, Ultraman was a Japanese television show in the 60s about like a giant man, like 60 feet tall, that fights the kaiju. And so
Okay.
like each episode would be like, oh, who's he fighting now? It's like aliens, some monster comes out of the ocean, like we got to fight it, and he's
Okay.
protecting Japan and all that. So they made a movie, that's basically like 4 episodes, 30-minute episodes stacked together
In a
of
movie. Okay.
of Ultraman,
Of him fighting for
fighting stuff,
bosses,
yeah,
basically. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And it's great fun, extremely entertaining, very inexpensive. The movie I think was made for like $5 or $6 million, like very very low budget, but managed to make like super entertaining action movie on basically no budget. Um,
So your question is what's happening with entertainment? That's
yeah,
the
like there's been a lot of reviews of like the top 20 songs on Spotify for each individual genre, and from what I can tell, they're all dreck, just terrible. Um, Taylor Swift, the biggest selling artist of all time now, or something, or of today at least,
today
is
for sure. Yeah.
made another album about herself. Like, okay, like,
But very introspective, very, very, very
yeah,
introspective. Yeah.
it's like no
Not so much
originality
asking questions, just standing for,
for herself.
well, and for, for everyone.
Yeah,
Everyone. If I stand for myself, you stand for me, we stand for each other. Yeah. Yeah.
everyone who aspires to be a sad rich girl. There you go, Taylor Swift.
No,
Um,
I got to part company with you, dude. I
okay,
like Taylor Swift. I think her writing is excellent. She writes. I mean, a lot of the songs herself.
see
Singer
now
songwriter.
I've just I just to this last week, this is a guy I never listened to, but I'm now actually going through and listening to his stuff. You'll be appalled when you hear the person's name. It's Billy Joel.
Oh, dude, I
I
love Billy Joel.
I know I've never listened to his stuff. I just never
Oh,
was
I'm
on my
appalled
radar.
at you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Never
Yeah.
having so
Well,
I've got to
because Marissa, your wife, just went to see Billy Joel, right? So that
right.
kind of
So
turned
she's
you
like,
on.
"Hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's listen." So I pull up his, top, there's all these compilations that
Yeah.
he's made. So I was like, "Okay, the 50 number one hits. So let's just listen
Yeah.
to it." I'm listening to this and it's like, "This song's amazing. This song's amazing. This song's amazing." They're all different. They have all interesting twists to them introspectively. Like there's always something about them that's surprising. Musically, they're interesting.
Lyrically, music. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, everything. Like, oh, this is songwriting. Like
Mhm.
this is actually good songwriting.
I agree with you,
You
man.
know,
I agree with you.
um, John Mayer, actually interesting songwriting.
I agree with that
Right?
too. Yeah.
Taylor Swift, not interesting song. I'm like you compare it to like actually good stuff. I
I'll
don't
have to
know.
send you a couple of maybe examples, maybe that to pull out for
Maybe so.
you.
Yeah.
But
Maybe I'm
yeah,
just not listening to the right one. But one of the things I was talking with my
we are never
colleagues
ever getting back together. I mean, that's so inspiring.
ever,
Ever, like ever.
ever, ever, not ever. I was talking with some of my colleagues in the film production department at my university. So our film studies is not actually like let's go talk about movies, it's let's go make movies. So we have like studio space and people learn how
I
to use
love
the
that.
cameras and edit it um and one of the things they were saying is the hardest thing that they have to do is get the students to watch movies. because
Because of attention span?
no, see, they don't like movies. They're in a film production major, and from what we can tell, they don't like movies.
What's the reasoning for that? Or what's your
They don't.
professors come up with some theory, right?
They don't know. They're
They
like,
haven't asked? Like, what when they ask,
yeah.
"Why don't you guys like movies?" What do they say?
We're like, well, what are you watching? And they're watching short form content. They're watching, TikToks. They're watching
You
maybe
don't think
some
that has
YouTube
anything to do with
stuff.
attention span?
I mean, maybe. I mean, the TikToks maybe you could say is attention span. Like I can't stand to watch, a minute and a half. I'm like zoom forward. Then
Well, dude, it is
how does
hard.
a
I mean,
2-hour movie gonna?
I'm thinking about my own kids, like, just having them watch, like, "Oh, this is a great you should watch this, right? We should watch this together." And it's even Disney movie, it took them forever to make it through Moana, like, they it's so funny, like, I had not seen Moana, I've seen it obviously now a couple years ago when I finally got, but it was like I'd seen this clip 100 times or whatever,
Yeah.
but she's, "Oh, go back to this and see, I wanna watch this
So
part."
I had the bad luck of watching a movie with your daughter when she was when she came over when you guys were moving.
Mhm.
So, I don't know what Brooks is doing. He's in the other room. Kyle's like, "Hey, do you want to watch Sing with me?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll watch Sing with you." And so she we sit down and she hits play, and she immediately goes right to the middle of the movie. I'm like, "Whoa, wait," and like we're gonna watch. We watch like 45 seconds, and then she goes back to that spot. We watch that 45 seconds like 6 or 7 times, and then she zooms back to like the first 3 minutes, and then the last bit, or whatever, and like, oh look, this character falls down here, and it's like, what? I don't even know what's happening, and it's like, and we do this for 15 minutes,
Yeah.
and then she's like, we're done.
"Okay, let's go do something else." Yeah.
Let's go do something else. Can I have some crackers? I'm like, yeah, you can have some crackers. Like, did we watch Sing? She's like, oh yeah, we watched it. Like, okay. Like, what? What is happening?
Yeah. But there you go, like, somehow, like, plot, and narrative, right? Like, are just, like, it's almost like it's overrated, I think your observation about the content being put out today, right, is, right on, Drek, I think is the word. This is a great word. So, not dank, Drek,
No,
yeah.
that's totally
So,
different.
yeah, but I also think, like, so to me, uh, good story is, I mean, that is it. We're storytelling when you create a movie or you create a TV show or you create a novel or whatever, is you're telling a story, and even when you present, I think, you and I make fun of it a lot. It's like, oh, in politics, right, or public affairs or whatever. It's oh, this is just part of the narrative, whatever. But
Yeah,
narrative is what it's about,
sure.
and does this particular thing fit the narrative I'm trying to craft or not fit the narrative I'm trying to craft, et cetera. But that's a whole bigger conversation. But like when we come to like Hollywood and TV and stuff like that, there are excellent stories being told, um, and then there are not so. I mean, I think there's laziness and like this, especially with Disney, the Star Wars. I haven't seen the show, but so I'm commenting in the dark there. But
Oh,
like, there's
did you see Kenobi?
no,
Did you see the Book of Boba Fett?
nope.
Okay. Well,
But I
the
did see the Mandalorian, which was
okay.
excellent.
First 2 seasons were good. It was
Yeah,
actually
well,
pretty
and
decent.
that's all I've seen. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You saw don't even bother with anything else. You're done.
yeah, and
You
I
saw
and I like Pedro Pascal too. So like it's
yeah.
but I think the for example, what was that Star Wars movie that is the story between the prequel
Rogue One.
to, yeah, Rogue One.
Yeah.
It, I think out of every Star Wars movie ever made, like that is the best one. Um,
It's very strong. Very strong opinion.
maybe tied with Empire Strikes Back, but like that is. I mean, that was such a great story. It was a great story. It was a great. It was almost like when I was watching it, I didn't. I mean, I knew it was the prequel to Star Wars, right? I knew I knew what it was about, but the whole narrative building up to it, the backstories of the characters, the futility of the mission, all of that was just terrific,
Mhm.
and it was creative, right? And compare that to the last three episodes in the, you can't call it a trilogy. What is it?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nuevology or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
You're talking about the sequel trilogy, like, Last
the,
Jedi and Rise
right,
of
Last
Skywalker.
Jedi. Yep. To me, that, I mean, like, especially, what was the movie that came out? The Force Awakens or whatever, right? Uh, is that right? The
That was the
episode
first one, yeah, the reboot, yeah.
episode 7, right?
Yeah,
Episode 7. To me, I was like, dude, this is actually a remake of episode 4. Like, it is
yes.
the exact same movie. It just,
Desert Planet, Chosen One, nobody.
I mean,
We get
literally,
we get Han Solo again.
frame by frame
Yeah,
was like the
like,
same
"Oh,
story,
oh, okay."
Yeah, and I just,
True.
it just not creative at all. Now on the flip side, I enjoyed episode 4
Yeah,
and I
that's fine.
enjoyed episode 7. It was great, but I have not felt the need to rewatch it or like go back and like, oh, this was great. It was like, okay, that was a passable way to spend 3 hours or whatever. And, I checked the box, right? It wasn't as much of a chore as the first three, episode 1, 2, and 3. Like that was like
Those
that
are
was like
kinda
a
rough.
that was obligatory homework. It was like I wanted to know what George Lucas had envisioned as the prequel to this, and I need to know it. And so I will sit down and read this, take
Yeah.
on this information because I need to check this box. And but it
It's a
was
difficult watch.
not enjoyable at all.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts about the prequel trilogy is, I don't know if you've noticed this, but a lot of times the characters, they'll be sitting there talking, there's, like, a lot of dialogue. They're just, like, going on and on about
And
this or that
badly written dialogue
weird plot
and
stuff,
badly acted dialogue
and well, so this is one of the first this is
and
right
poorly
when
edited dialogue. I mean, I keep
this is
going on
right
here.
when, like, the blue screen stuff was taking off. So usually the
Hold on,
actor would have
hold on,
something
hold
behind.
on, guys. Huh? Okay. Well, when I'm done with this, I will help you with it. Maybe.
If you're lucky.
Okay. Yep. I hear you, man.
If you don't offend me anymore. No. Well, anyway, so early blue screen stuff. Actors are used to having something behind them. There's nothing behind them, so it's very hard to react to that. Now
Sure.
everyone's used to it, but at the time, well, anyway, there'd be these moments where you'd see that they're walking and there's all this amazing stuff happening behind them. They're in front of some giant something that's incredible, and they're just talking with each other. They seem to be completely unconcerned about everything that's going on around them. They're talking, they're talking, they're talking, they're talking, and they're talking. They're walking while they talk, and they stop, walking, and they just keep talking while all this stuff is happening around them, and they move on to the next scene. And I always thought that was weird. It happens over and over and over in the prequel trilogies. And it turns out the reason why that is he would write all this dialogue, and they'd be on this blue screen, and the blue screen's only so long. It's not an endless blue screen. So they would start at one end, and they would start talking, and they would keep going, and they'd get to the other end. They run out of blue screen, but there's more dialogue.
Right.
So they just stand there and finish it up. They're like, "Well, where are we? What's happening?" You're like, "We'll figure it out later. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
say the words." And it turns out, oh, they're in a library, and so now there's this huge library with, like, robots moving the books
Right.
around and everything, and yeah, like, what a mess. Like, is that how are you supposed to make a
It's like
movie?
how much CGI can I pack into this scene, so that people think it's cool or whatever. I mean,
Yeah,
I just it's really hard to. I mean, maybe we have unrealistic expectations, but I mean, like, you compare it to, like, even, I mean, like Kubrick, for example, like, Space Odyssey.
there's tons of special effects,
But
constant special effects,
it is like
but it's about
very,
something.
and it's very well thought out, and the stuff that you're watching on screen has been thoughtfully curated to advance, the narrative. There's Easter eggs, I mean, it's just it's and it makes you think. I mean, people talk about it like now decades later. It's nobody, you know. Of course, we're talking about Phantom Menace now, so I guess
This is an
maybe I should
example of
just
what
shut
not
up.
to do.
Yeah,
Well, well, so
keep
here's
feeding
here's
to
one of
this.
the things. So I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. It's a slightly different genre though. We're talking about music, and I recommended a particular album to him. I said this album was super interesting. Um, and I said it's really recent. And he's like, "What do you mean recent? It came out in like I have to look at it. It was like 2015 or 2016." I was like, "Well, that is recent." He's like, "Well, what have they been doing lately?" It's like, "Who cares? This album exists. It's not like the existence of Beethoven
Right.
invalidated
I need to
Mozart's."
know if they're still relevant before I appreciate this. Yeah.
It's like, and it's like, well, how this was great. I want to hear the next album. It's like, well, the next album is completely different. Like, what other album sounds like this? No other album sounds like this. This is the only one that sounds like that. And if you wanted, it's like, well, I want to listen to more of that. It's like, well, then listen to the album again.
Yeah.
It's like
I
Dark Side
think
of the
I
Moon.
yeah, yeah,
So it's
I think that's, and I think it's Roger Waters is the one that was like, always would get pissed off when people would ask him to play, um, like, "Oh, play that." It's like, "Dude, I made that album like 50 years ago. Like, here's what I'm making now." You
it's like
know?
it's still there.
You paid to
It's
come
still you
see
can still
me
listen to it.
today. Here's what I'm doing today, and
Yeah.
he would get mad at the fans, and it's like, dude, the fans want what the fans want. But I think that's you can go kind of either way there, right? It's like, hey, I'm here to cater to my fans, and so like you're talking about like the top 20, let's say country music songs or whatever, right? It's like there's so much of, oh, that sounds really good. That worked for them. Let me go ahead and write a song about that from my perspective, or whatever.
Well,
And
here's why I think this is interesting. So, say if we're talking about movies, music is different because it's much older, but movies is a relatively recent invention. So, okay, if we're making movies in the 50s, they're not that many movies. So, the next one we make can be a pretty amazing addition
mm,
to this
mm,
thing.
mhm.
Uh, when we're talking about music, though, occasionally you'll get like a real big leap forward or something very, very different that comes out. So, like Elvis connecting country and western, gospel and blues together to create this new sound. That's that's new, and we're still sort of working our way
Especially for
through
white people.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that particular combo was
Mhm.
very, very innovative. Um, but it's like with music, it's not like, well, what's the next symphony that's coming out? It's like, well, we don't really have to worry about that. I mean, maybe there are new symphonies and that's awesome, but we have so many that you're not going to run out.
Mhm.
You personally will not run out of good symphonies to listen to if you listen to them continuously
For the rest, yeah,
starting
right,
today, right?
right.
You're not going to run out. So the next one is kind of like, yeah, if there's something so good that it makes a splash and I hear about it, I'll set down my, Anton Dvorak and listen to it. But otherwise, why would I? So I wonder if we've reached critical mass in movies.
Peak movie.
Well, no, that's just like it doesn't matter. Like what movies are coming out this year? It doesn't matter. There might be some good ones, and if there are, that's awesome. But you know what? I haven't finished my backlog of amazing films that I need to watch already. Like, why would I care about which movies are coming out today?
Mhm.
So I wonder if we have reached that point. So now the main thing to fix is access, which we have fixed in music. So with streaming the way it is now, you subscribe to your streaming service, you now have access to more or less all the music,
All the music, yeah.
all the music. And since most of it is older, the licensing is kind of easier to figure out.
Mhm.
With movies, we haven't made that leap yet. The industry is still all about the next movie instead of monetizing the movies that are
The
already made.
catalog.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The catalog is now the real value. It's like, oh, do you hear there's a new Alien movie coming out? Don't care. Right? Because I already have 4 or 5 good ones that I could watch if I wanted
Right,
to watch an Alien movie.
right. But I
and
do
like
want somebody to explain Prometheus to me still. Like
oh yeah.
I need
Uh,
that.
if you do, we should have a podcast about that at some point. I actually have some theories about what that movie is about, but
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, we'll do that if you really care about. I don't think
I
very
would
many people care about Prometheus, but if
I
you do,
love I love that movie. I was like, dude, I mean, and I it's I
it's like my mind
I
is blown and there are problems.
and I have questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so to me as you were talking I was sitting here thinking I'm like, well, what isn't the purpose of entertainment to entertain, right? So if I am, it's like Russell Crowe, right? Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained?
Right. So like, I mean, that was entertaining. Was it high quality? Okay, depends on what critic I listen to, but like, I mean, was I entertained? Yeah, I was entertained. Would I tell my friends about it? Do I think my friends would be entertained about it? Right? Would I like to put my stamp of approval on this and say, you got to go see this show? Right? It's like, well, okay, well, maybe I have to think twice about that. But maybe I was entertained, but it's a guilty pleasure. I don't want anybody else to know I was entertained. Whatever. Right? Can I admit that I like Taylor Swift on a podcast? Right? So there's kind of that around it, right? But there's also the if people are buying it, and I mean, and it's the best selling X, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's good or high quality. I get that, and there's going to be smarter, more educated, more precise thinkers that will, settle that question perhaps at some point. But it was entertaining, and society ate it up. So to me, it's like,
Yeah.
dude, I mean, more power to you then. Like, I mean, that's I don't go to the movie theater to be depressed or to be, like, I mean, you
Well,
know,
some of us do, Eric. Some of us
some
do.
yeah, and I mean, I do like stories and stuff that make me think and a question, right? I love that, and I love when somebody produces something that I immediately want to watch again. So did you finish Shogun?
Yes.
I mean, and that was excellent. I was like, dude, I would go back and rewatch that, like
Yep.
especially what we now know from the final episode of where that guy's head was at the entire time. It's like, oh my god, like he had planned all of this. It's like the reveal in Game of Thrones when you find out that the little figure was behind the whole thing. Like Baelish, literally, he's the architect of that show. And I think it's so that scene when he's talking to oh who is he talking to? And he's like, why did you bring all this chaos? And he's like, chaos is a ladder, right? And I
Like
mean
he was
that
telling you the whole time.
he and it was well, the reason that's fresh is because I just rewatched the entire thing, and so I've been so yeah. This is actually a great segue in your conversation. I had been so disappointed in the last season of Game of Thrones, and how the show writers basically like you know they didn't
Let's
have
just
the
wrap
source
it up.
material. Yeah, didn't have the source material anymore. Let's wrap it up. Let's finish that. And that was kind of the narrative that had lived in for me because I had watched the show in real time as it came out,
Yep. Same.
and yeah, and it was kind of like, I can't believe they did this to these characters. I'm so mad. Da, da, da. And I think I was on Reddit, so a couple months ago, and I was reading some. I don't know how it came up, but I was doing some internet search, and it was something about why did Daenerys burn, King's Landing, right? I'm like, yeah, that's a great
Why?
question. Why did you do click, right? And
Breaker of chains, mother of
breaker,
dragons.
right? And as I'm reading, the guy, whoever it was, made a great point. I was just like, look, all of these things have been clearly, in fact, like I dismiss your premise completely that this was a bow tying. This was actually the logical arrival at every single one of these characters to what the way they wrapped it up. Like there's nothing. There is no incongruity whatsoever. Like the only reason you experience it that way is because you wanted them to end up in a different place than it was obvious that they were going the entire time. And I was like, uh, I disagree. I disagree. But to prove you wrong, I will rewatch the series with what you have said in mind. And I am totally wrong. 100% wrong. That guy, whoever he was, thank you, OP. uh, it was so obvious, in fact, that I was shocked that I had ever thought the other way. Like watching that those last 6 episodes, it was kind of like I watched the whole other thing just to get to the last 6 episodes so that I could evaluate them differently, potentially.
Mhm.
And I almost didn't even need to rewatch them. It was so like, yeah.
Yeah.
That make it was I don't know, it was like a collection of like light, like yeah. So I
I
just
I think
that kind of creative uh energy I think is excellent. So I don't know that I think we're at peak movie, but
well, I think that show history is gonna be kinder to that show than the critics at the time. Like, I enjoyed the way it ended. I thought it was like, out of the many like, we don't have the source material, so it's like there's many ways for this to end.
right.
All of them good, just good in different ways, and they chose this one, and I like that one.
Mhm.
It's perfectly fine way for it to end. Um, it was kind of once they had killed off a few of the characters that I really liked, I felt sort of like, yeah, let's see where it goes. I think the show was at its high point for character development with what was the younger daughter's name? So
Arya.
Arya, yeah,
Hmm.
Arya and the Hound. That whole sequence I thought was particularly powerful.
At the end when she
Uh,
tells him thank you finally.
yeah, like
Yeah.
that whole path that she takes with him and like how he changes.
Hmm.
Um, I thought was like very beautiful. It's like, okay, this is why you watch these long form series shows, is for this kind of interaction to be possible. You
Yeah,
know.
and I think, like, for him, it wasn't even so much, uh, it's funny you think in terms of character arc, right? Like, the character starts out here and they evolve this way. I didn't even necessarily see that as an evolution for him, in retrospect, as more of the situations that he was put in allowed him to display the core of who he actually was,
Hmm.
and, that was so well written, but also well thought about. Like these people that think in the character's brain, the script supervisors or whatever, they're like, oh, this is inconsistent with how he would have been or would have said or whatever. They did such a great job,
Yeah.
such a terrific job with that character, because you see the seeds of that all the way back into the very first well, not the first season so much, but the second season, where he's like looking out for Sansa and stuff like that. It's like this is he's just he's misunderstood in a way, like he just because he won't let anybody, because
Yeah, he's kind of
yeah,
rough. He's a rough
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Yeah, rough around the edges.
That one
Well,
scene where he like steals the farmer and his daughter steals their gold and stuff, and he's like, well, they're gonna die anyway, like they don't need that, and she's like, I can't believe they gave us our hospitality, you stole this, they're not gonna need it, and then when they come back a couple seasons later, and they're dead, and the way had died or whatever, and the one guy's like hypothesizing, oh, it looks like this happened and this happened and then that happened, and what do you think? And he's like, doesn't matter, and but then he's the one that's at their grave burying them and all this other kind of stuff, and the other guy finally realized, like, you knew these people, and he's like, yeah, maybe. That was terrific, man. Terrific writing, man. Yeah.
I wonder if
um
we'll get another show like that at some point.
yeah, I told Marissa was asking, like, "What are you guys gonna talk about this week?" And I was like, I don't know, man, but I do have a new piece of tech I was gonna like bring
Oh
in.
yeah, show and tell.
So she and I were playing Racket Club, which, by the way, so if you're watching
Uh,
this and you have a Quest 2 or 3,
Oculus people.
yeah, Oculus, yeah, there's a game called Racket Club that is just terrific. It's basically a tennis club, but it's a unique game just for VR, and it is. I mean, there's thousands of people playing it from around the world. It's excellent. And so she and I got in there, and she was like, "Man, I've been getting in here and playing the AI the whole time." She goes, "It's so much different playing a real person." And I'm like, "I know. Like, you got to get in the club." She's like, "Oh, I'm just terrified. I walk into a club, somebody comes up and is like, hi, do you want to like go play? And she's like, and I just pressed the home button real quick because I don't know what to say. I'm like, just
Run
person, man,
away.
just yeah, run away. Ah. But so I bought these. So the thing with the Oculus that I love is I prefer calling it Oculus because I don't know why,
Well,
but
the MetaQuest. MetaQuest.
MetaQuest, right? So the MetaQuest, the three, the thing that I love about it is you can I can work on it. So like I'll connect it to my computer, my laptop, and it will create a artificial environment with like massive monitors. And so even though I only have one laptop screen, like at my desk, I've got three monitors, right? But like if I'm want to sit at the kitchen table, or if I want to go to the office, or I want to go to a coffee shop or whatever, it's like it's very difficult to work on a laptop screen after you've been working
Mhm.
on that. And the Quest is great because you can just like that, you create this environment with, and you can either have it a pass-through environment, which basically means I'm still sitting where I'm sitting, I can still see everything, but on top of that are these massive floating monitors, right? uh, and it really like amps up productivity. The problem with it is that you look like a tool wearing one, right? So like if you if you're
Got your
not in your
goggles.
yeah, if you're not in your home, like you're at a Starbucks or something, and it's like, what?
What is
And
happening?
and I like to think about myself as the kind of person that doesn't care what people think, like
But
I'll
you
do me,
do.
but I kind of do, man. I
Yeah.
don't want to be that guy, right? So I bought these.
Okay.
These
Vitur.
are Viture, yeah. So there's three different companies that are active in this space, and all three of their products are pretty similar, but the it depends on what your tech stack looks like as to which one is going to be the best for you. So for people that are on iOS and Mac, this one has the best software to back it up.
Okay.
If you're a PC or Android person, there's another company called Xreal, uh, X and then Real. They have very similar spec hardware, but their software is more for that world, right? So,
Okay.
but what this is basically it looks like a pair of sunglasses. So,
Oh,
right,
okay.
and
Thick sunglasses for people
so
who are not.
yeah, so you can see that.
Oh,
So it's got two diopter things here, so you can change for
yeah.
nearsightedness or whatever. And then what's happening here is it's a prism kind of
Uh-huh.
projector that's
Yep.
projecting down on this angled glass, and so it kind of gives you this heads up display. So like when you're wearing it, you know, uh, I mean, little goofy looking sunglasses perhaps, but I mean, close to
Reasonable. They don't
yeah,
look like goggles.
right. You might look at it and say, okay, well that guy's wearing some glasses under his sunglasses, so maybe a little weird, but not super weird, right? So it has a cable here. So on one end is USB-C, right there.
Okay.
And on the other end is kind of a magnetic pogo pin
Okay.
here, and it just clips on your glasses there. So like that.
Okay. Gotcha.
And then you plug this into your phone. So like if you have like say a Samsung, which I think you have a Samsung,
Yeah.
Samsung has DeX, which it acts if it detects an external display, it will create a desktop environment for your phone, right?
Mhm.
And what it does is in the glasses, it projects out this massive monitor, right? Now the monitor is in most of the use cases, right? So like, let's say I plug this into my phone, I'm going to see a floating like horizontal phone, right? If I landscape my phone, then the screen is going to fill out and be this big giant screen, but it's going to be kind of fixed in space. So like as I move my head, the screen is just going to be in front of my glasses, right?
Okay.
But with the software, depending on again what your platform is and how you use it, the the software, like if I plug this into my Mac, it'll create. There's an app that you download on the Mac, and it will create this. Um, they call it 3 degrees of freedom, where meaning I can turn my head up and down like 3 degrees of
Mhm.
whatever, and the image stays stationary. And because of that, they can then take uh, what would normally be like a 130-inch display, right? and they can make that into like as as big as they want. So like because now I'm just looking at a piece of it, and so like but it stays still. So like I can create this ultra wide
Hmm.
external display above my laptop, and so as I look down, I can see because I can see through this, right? It's
Hmm.
got some electrochromatic thing, so I can like press this button and it'll black out the shades completely, like double polarize them or whatever, so you can't see through.
Okay.
Which is great for like watching, say, a movie or something else like that. But if I'm or working, where I don't want to see the background, I just want to see what I'm looking at. Or I can have it pass through, so like you can literally like drive your car, your bike, or whatever, walk
Please
the
don't.
dog, and it doesn't block out your whole screen. You can press a button and it'll like shrink it up into this little side thing, that
It's a HUD.
kind of floats.
Yep.
Yeah, like a HUD, exactly.
Okay. Question though.
Yep.
Um, the goggles. I think one of the benefits of the goggles is the peripheral vision. So not only is it the center, but you also get really good peripheral coverage, so that illusion of it of kind of being there is maintained, right?
Right.
So for the glasses, just looking at the way the prism is done, wouldn't don't you like so like if you're looking at your let's say you've got it motion track, so the window's in front of you, you're typing
Hmm.
into your email right here, and
Hmm.
then you turn to look at something, and so then as this does this, as it tracks away from your eye,
Hmm.
doesn't it fall out of pixels before it falls out of peripheral vision? So you
Yes.
see it sort of fall away before it leaves. Is that distracting?
It's not as immersive by any means, right? But
Hmm.
that's not the intent of that's not the use case, right? So if I'm in my home at my desk, I don't usually use those, right? I use the goggles because you're right. It's immersive. Everything is blacked out, and everything that I'm seeing, like as far as my peripheral vision will go, is the environment, right? So
Right.
like as I'm turning around looking, I mean, like you feel like you are inside
So that is your monitor,
that
basically.
and what's not your monitor is the false environment that I'm creating. So I'm in
Mm.
a chateau on top of a mountain, or I'm at the beach, or whatever the case may be, right?
May occasionally look out and look at the waterfall and then go back.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's one environment I have that where like you're at this like I mean, there's pterodactyls and stuff. I mean, you could do all kinds of cool stuff, right? But that's not the use case for these, right? The use case for these is uh, I'm washing dishes, but I still want to watch my movie, right? So like unless my TV, like, so I used to like would have my iPad and I'd put it here while I was doing whatever chore, and so I'm constantly glancing down and right. But now, no, I mean it's right where I need to be, and I'm using my lower vision to like wash the dishes, move stuff around, or whatever the
Or
case may
like you
be.
can you can watch it and then kind of look down to see stuff, and you can sort of look around the false image, the illusion that it
Correct.
creates.
And I'm not going for immersion. I'm going for portability, right? So
Right.
like here I go to a coffee shop and I have my glasses thrown in my backpack or whatever, pull them out, put them on, and now I have the working space that I need. But I know that um it's uh I'm not going for immersion there. I'm going
Hmm.
for utility, right? So like
Gotcha.
there's nothing that's just, there's no illusion that's destroyed because I don't want the illusion. I just want the functionality, right? If that makes sense. So
Have you enjoyed it so far? Has it done the trick?
yeah, dude, I love it. It's Lo would make fun of me because I'd walk around with my headphones or whatever. I'd be listening to a podcast or whatever when I was doing chores or whatever. But now I've got my glasses on, so I'm watching
Oh
something.
no.
And yeah, and she's just like, "Oh, that's great," like you're even less connected than you were before. I'm like, "Yeah, but
Yeah.
no, but it's and the other thing that's cool is like you know, um, you can lay in bed and watch something like that. You can if you're playing like you have a Steam Deck, right? So like
Yeah.
instead of you playing right here, you plug your glasses into that thing, and now you're playing your controller here, but you've got this massive gaming environment. I mean,
What what's the name of the one that you have? What's it called?
it's called Viture or Vitcher, I think is how they pronounce it. Vitcher.
Vitcher.
Vitcher, yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Uh, they
So
just
they
came
have
out
like
with
the Pro and then the Light and the
Yeah.
one. Which one is yours?
So this is the Pro,
The
and
Pro.
so I bought both. So I bought because there is a like $100 price difference or whatever.
Oh, really?
And so I was like, well, let me get both, and I'll get them from Amazon so I can return one, and
The
if it's close,
light there, they are advertising it as, like, good for Steam Deck.
yeah, they all are.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Because Steam Deck is Linux. I'm I'm surprised they have the software for it. That's really cool, though.
Well, so you don't need the software is irrelevant if you're just like if you plug in with a USB,
Mhm.
anything
It's a
that has
screen.
DisplayPort out of USB, they're great. Okay, they create that 130-inch floating fixed monitor, right? So like as you move, it moves. Okay,
Okay.
the 3 degrees of freedom thing is a software thing. So for the 3 degrees of freedom, because you need Bluetooth and it needs to tap into the gyro, the different things that it needs to process the 3 degrees of freedom, right?
Okay.
Um, so yeah, so like if but for me, for for gaming, for movies, for things like that, I don't want 3 degrees of freedom.
You just want the screen.
I just want the screen. Where the 3 degrees of freedom is, at least for me, is super handy is like when you're working, like to be able to have multiple monitors where like I'm looking over here at this, but I've got my spreadsheet over here, I got my email over here, like and being able to move and see different things. That's where that's useful. But in gaming, I don't want to like miss what's going on the screen. I
Right.
want something that I can see everything and know like what moves I need to
Gotcha.
make. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, it's on sale right now.
Yeah, the Pro is it's a great deal right now on the Pro. So I think it's an introductory price.
See, if you
Uh,
always bring the temptation, man. Like, as much as
sorry, dude.
mom is always getting on to me about, like, don't tell your dad about, new stuff because he'll want to get it. And it's like, you're the same way with me, so I got to be careful.
Sorry, dude. Sorry, man. But
It
hey,
does look
like
pretty fun.
you can always that's what I love about Amazon, man. You say buy it if it doesn't blow your mind, and but you won't be. I don't think. I mean, like for me, having both of them and trying, there was such a difference. Like even people say, "Oh, there's not really that much of a difference." It's a massive difference. Like it's
Really?
yeah, the regular one has 43 degrees of field of vision versus 47, I think, on the which it's only like 4 degrees, but that 4 degrees is it translates into a good like 30% bigger on your perceived screen.
Gotcha.
The brightness, the sharpness, it wasn't even wasn't even comparison. It was like, oh, well, this is such a leap forward. However, if I had not had the pros, if I just had the ones, maybe I wouldn't
Whatever.
know. But
How just one last thing because I know we're probably out of time, but how's it been? Because I know you have I know you wear reading glasses. How's it been as far as the nearsightedness?
yeah, so it's better. Like I don't need the glasses
Okay,
when I have
you can adjust it for that.
correct. And but actually, I don't adjust it. They're all the way off.
Okay,
Um, but you can. So like depending on your vision, there are two glasses that have so the X reels do not have a diopter adjuster, but
okay,
the Vitchers do, and then there's another pair called a company called Rocket, ROKID, Rocket. They're Chinese. They have their Rocket Max is what they're called. They have a diopter adjuster as well. But and then but even the X Reels, Vitcher, Rocket, they all have also prescription inserts that you can that they'll send you like a prescription thing that you could put. Basically, it's like it goes in front of the prism, right?
uh,
You
okay,
send them off to you send your prescription off, and they'll send you back a insert that has your prescription that inserts into the glasses basically.
gotcha.
And I've heard people rave about those if like the diopter is not good enough or doesn't work for them, whatever the case may be. So
Hmm. Well, I have to see this in person, which means we need to get together again.
yeah. Well, and the other thing about for your particular use case, like you said how you're susceptible to motion sickness inside the goggles.
Yeah.
Because of the lack of immersion in these, like, I don't think you would be dealing with that at all. It doesn't, your brain doesn't get confused about where you are. Like, that's not the intention. It's just to give you extra display.
A screen.
So yeah.
Yeah. I have to check it out, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Temptation. You so
Well,
bad.
I enjoyed it, dude, as usual. We got a heart today. Oh, Carol gave us a heart.
Oh,
Yay. Thank you,
thanks,
Carol.
Carol.
Yeah. All right, brother. Well, so are we going to do this coming Wednesday again? Or,
We can. I'll be in Northern Ireland.
okay, now let's take the week off then. So next.
Well, no, I mean, I just don't know what the time zone difference is.
Oh, yeah,
and stuff,
yeah.
but it might be fun to do.
I
It's
think
supposed to. It's a very chill trip. We're not doing that much. Let me look.
I think, yeah,
Maybe we can make
Ireland.
it happen.
Yeah, look it up and see. I think you'll probably be GMT like
Yeah.
0, I would think. So it'd probably just be a 5-hour difference. No,
We might be able to make it work.
okay.
Uh,
Sound good, man. All right, we'll do it again soon.
Alrighty.
All right, cheers.